Hello everybody, I'm back with another Caped Crusader video. This time I'm doing something a little bit different. When I say different, it's very similar to one of the first videos I uploaded to my channel years ago now, where I talked about 5 things I wanted to see from Caped Crusader back when it was first announced. And now that the first season is out, and it has been a month, you've hopefully had plenty of time to watch it, I want to talk about 5 things that I want to see from Season 2 of Caped Crusader. Now, my original video has aged like milk. I got pretty much everything wrong, basically, having watched Season 1 now, and knowing the kind of show they're actually trying to make. I've maybe got some more realistic hopes and aspirations for Season 2. So let's kick things off with my first point. I want to see more villains. So there are a couple of villains that were teased during Season 1. The first one, the elephant in the room. Massive spoilers here now. If you haven't seen the show, stop watching now because I'm going to spoil everything. Is at the end of the final episode, after Batman has his triumphant, threatening moment with Rupert Thorne, we cut to the East End, a grotty little shack where there's maybe, I don't know, half a dozen people have been... It looks like they've been tortured. Their contorted corpses are there with big grins on their faces. And there is another victim who is kind of laughing to death. And you see a face emerge from the shadows say, "Perfect." And that's it. Now, obviously, it's the Joker. So, Season 2, I think it's safe to say we're going to get the Joker. And I think that based on the way that the other villains have been characterized in Season 1, by kind of going back to their roots, their original interpretations, I think they'll do something similar with the Joker. I think that he is more likely to be a less comedic figure, more... I was going to say a terrorist, I suppose so. That would indicate that he has some sort of belief, but I don't think that the Joker does. Essentially, he's going around murdering people and things like poisoning the reservoir. If you've read Ed Brubaker's Batman the Man Who Laughs, I suspect that's very much what we're going to get, considering that Ed Brubaker was the head writer on Season 1, although it's worth noting he's not working on Season 2 because he's far too busy on his own show, Criminal, with Amazon. The other villain that was mentioned, very briefly, twice I should add, was Dr. Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow. So he is mentioned by Harleen Quinzel as being her mentor, which might indicate why Harley Quinn psychologically tortured all of her clients that were acting immorally. But he was also featured in one of the newspapers from that episode where you saw an advert for his book. It was How to Stop Worrying and Influence People. 2 little teases there for the Scarecrow makes me think that he's going to turn up in the future and probably be connected with Harley Quinn. It's kind of an interesting idea to think that rather than being inspired by the Joker, this Harley Quinn was inspired by the Scarecrow in a way. So I'll be very interested to see what comes of that. I wonder if he is also going to be more of a psychological villain rather than someone that relied on gas and chemicals to make people hallucinate. And also, I kind of like the idea of Scarecrow being like a self-help guru. I think that would be very cool. And just a final point on villains. I would like to see some more obscure villains. They used Firebug in Season 1, which really surprised me. Maybe we could have someone like Tallyman. Or maybe even, if you want to go down an absurd route, the Eraser. The guy with the big eraser on his head. Looks like a walking pencil. That could be quite fun. So the next thing, number 2. I don't want to forget about the villains that have already been introduced, and I really like the idea of exploring what would happen with Penguin and Catwoman being in the same prison. Now, Penguin and Catwoman are connected by virtue of Batman Returns, and I really like the idea of pairing up these 2 villains in prison. Perhaps you could have Oswalda Cobblepot running her, or trying to run her criminal empire from the inside of the prison, and she teams up with Selena Kyle in order to, I don't know, maybe she's going to pay Selena Kyle some money to watch her back, because she's a competent fighter for the most part. She's very athletic anyway. I don't think a prison break story would be that interesting. I think they both would need to be released from prison eventually in order to continue doing their wrongdoing. Maybe Rupert Thorne's hired some other female villains that are already in prison to kill Penguin to finally remove his rival. That could be quite interesting in light of the fairly controversial remark from Bruce Timm about Batman not having any good female villains, which actually I agree with. Outside of Poison Ivy, Catwoman and Harley Quinn, who else has Batman got? You know, all right, yeah, there's Lady Shiva, there's Talia al Ghul, but they're not A-tier villains. Not at all. You could have a bunch of minor Batman villains also being in prison, perhaps trying to claim money by killing the Penguin. I don't know. It's just an idea. I thought that would be cool. So the third thing I want to see is to continue to develop some of the plot points from season 1. The first one that jumps out at me, Alfred's secret. So when Alfred was possessed by Gentleman Ghost told Batman that Alfred had been keeping a secret from him and he was desperate not to share it. I love the idea that it is something totally mundane and it's not something silly like, you know, Alfred is Bruce Wayne's real dad. He's not, by the way. Bruce Timm has posted on his anime superhero forum account that they haven't actually decided what the secret is yet, but it's not going to be something like, you know, Bruce Wayne is the son of Alfred. Nothing daft like that. I just really like the idea of someone being tormented by something really mundane and trivial. I don't know why that appeals to me, but it does. On a related note, I'd like to see more of Papa Midnight and what he's getting up to. What exactly was he going to do with Gentleman Ghost? And the final development from season 1 that I would like to see explored is Rupert Thorne's empire being taken away from him by Batman, piece by piece. And maybe, just maybe, someone might replace him. Possibly some costumed villain, perhaps? Maybe? I don't know. It's interesting to find out. It might even be an excuse to see the rise of the Falcone family, or Falcone family, depending on your pronunciation there. And my fourth point is I don't want to see any more heroes. Keep Batman unique, have him be the only costume vigilante in Gotham. I think that's a fairly safe bet, although they did tease some characters like Eel O'Brien's in the show as a sleazy photographer. Eel O'Brien would eventually go on to become Plastic Man, but I hope he doesn't do that in this show. They teased 4 Robins by having the residents of the orphanage be Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Stephanie Brown and Carrie Kelly, all of whom have been Robin in the comics. I don't want to see Robin in this show ever. I know that might be a controversial take, but I really just don't want it. And also, some people have seen the inclusion of Detective Corrigan as a hint to the Spectre, which might potentially happen, maybe, because the first James Corrigan was the Spectre, but the second James Corrigan was a corrupt GCPD officer. I think he was in the CSI team, actually, so the crime scene investigation side. He would take evidence and sell it on the black market to line his own pocket, and it would hinder cases from being processed. He was very corrupt. He also murdered Detective Crispus Allen, who was Renee Montoya's partner at the time. So he's got that going against him. Seems very similar to Caped Crusader's Corrigan, who attempted to murder Barbara Gordon. Spoilers. And my final point, I want an adaptation of Darwin Cook's Ego. I said that in my first video, and I still want it. I think it's a really great graphic novel, and the art style, Darwin Cook's art style, meshes very nicely with the Bruce Timm inspired artwork of the show. The era fits it nicely. It could be a really great episode that doesn't really feature a villain. It's more about Batman's psychology. We've seen Batman's psychology examined during season 1 a little bit, because he starts out as being very closed off and emotionless, but gradually through the series he becomes more humane as he interacts with more people. And I would say about Caped Crusader, it was pitched as this show that is all about a solo Batman. He doesn't need anybody else. He's just working on his own. He has no feelings, no ties to anyone. But the show actually argues against that. Throughout the whole season, he gradually expands his group of colleagues, I suppose you might call them, even though they don't see themselves as that. From the moment he starts spying on Montoya and listening in on what she's doing and following her and helping her with the Clayface investigation. Even in the first episode when he helps Barbara Gordon, that kind of starts their collaboration. And in The Night of the Hunters, when he rescues those children with Commissioner Gordon, it's no coincidence that in the final episode it is Batman working with Gordon, Montoya and Barbara to rescue Harvey Dent. It's not Batman on his own doing it. And when he tries to go solo, he does pretty well, but he gets clobbered around the head and gets a concussion and he has to rely on Gordon to help him. So as much as Caped Crusader was initially all about Batman as a solo figure, I think the show makes an argument for him needing a support network. And you can't really have a very interesting and compelling show with a character that doesn't feel anything and doesn't talk. Hence why there are so many other characters in the show. But anyway, I think an adaptation of Ego would be a really great way of further expanding Batman's psychology. So those are my 5 desires for the second season of Caped Crusader. It's already being written. In fact, it might already have been written by this point. So it's too late for me to influence anyone. Not that anyone from the Caped Crusader team really watches my stuff. I'm certain of it. But hey, if I'm completely wrong about all of this, which is probably very likely, maybe they'll pick it up for a season 3. Maybe. I don't know. All right, thanks for watching. Why not share your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below, and we can have a cool discussion about what might be. And it'll be fun to come back to this in a couple of years when Caped Crusader Season 2 comes out, and we can see exactly how wrong I am. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.